Hello. I hope things are going well for you today. I hope good things, positive things are heading your way. I want to talk about Steve Kerr. I'm going to show you a video. Steve Kerr is the coach for the Golden State Warriors. If you haven't seen this full video, it's worth your time.
Happened with our team in the last 6 hours. We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Since we left shoot around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here, and a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California, and now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. There's 50 senators right now who refuse to vote on H.R. 8, which is a background check rule that the House passed a couple of years ago. It's been sitting there for 2 years. And there's a reason they won't vote on it, to hold on to power. So I ask you, Mitch McConnell, I ask all of you senators who refuse to do anything about the violence and school shootings and supermarket shootings, I ask you, are you going to put your own desire for power ahead of the lives of our children and our elderly and our churchgoers? Because that's what it looks like. It's what we do every week. So I'm fed up. I've had enough. We're going to play the game tonight, but I want every person here, every person listening to this, to think about your own child or grandchild or mother or father or sister, brother. How would you feel if this happened to you today? We can't get numb to this. We can't sit here and just read about it and go, well, let's have a moment of silence. Yeah, go Dubs, you know. Come on, Mavs, let's go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go play a basketball game. And 50 senators in Washington are going to hold us hostage. Do you realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check? 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
Well, that was really emotional. That was from Steve Kerr, Golden State Warrior coach. His team's in the playoffs right now. His dad died in 1984. He was shot. I believe he was in Lebanon at the time as an academic. So, you know, I think this particular incident really hit home with Steve. For those, strong statement. That's right, Theo. Strong. And you know what, Dee Parks? It's one thing, and I want to touch on this too. Dee says more celebs and people in power need to speak out like him. Yeah, people who aren't, that you don't normally see on MSNBC, that aren't on the Young Turks. You know, people who don't normally talk about politics. These are the folks that need to talk about them, just so that their fans understand where they stand on this issue. And I'm going to put up the vote, the register to vote sign over here. This is not all going to be a doom and gloom episode of this show. I just want to let you know that there's going to be there's a bit of hope in the news, and that has directly to do with voting. I just want to say that, but we're going to dive deeper into the tragedy. Yeah. Let me see if I can pull this stuff up here. Live show, everyone wonders here. So this is from NPR. Links are in the description below. What we know about the school shooting so far in Uvalde. And this is just a brief overview. This is probably old information for most people watching this. 21 people were killed by an attack by a gunman at an elementary school in the small town of Uvalde, Texas. At least 19 students and 2 adults were among the casualties. So when Steve Kerr was talking last night, the death toll was lower. And right now it's at 19. 21, I'm sorry. 19 students and 2 adults. The gunman was killed by police, according to local law enforcement officials. The attack at Robb Elementary occurred just 2 days before summer break. According to the school's calendar, that listed May 26th as the last day. The school taught students in grades 2 through 4, and around 600 students attended. Uvalde, Texas. It's a town of about 16,000 people, most of whom are Hispanic, according to U.S. Census data. The town sits about 85 miles west of San Antonio. Uvalde is best known as the hometown of Oscar winner Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey's made a statement about the shooting too, saying that we should do better. If you want to, you can Google that up and take a look at it. The 18-year-old gunman attended Uvalde High School, which had its graduation set for this coming Friday. Law enforcement said he acted alone. Local officers, so it was a border agent that killed him. The gunman had body armor on, and for most, and if you know anything about body armor, this is just from my reading and watching different videos about body armor. A lot of body armor is designed to stop basic handgun rounds, right? You can see it with the U.S. military when they were in Iraq, for an example. They had to put plates into their body armor to stop the AK-47 rounds. So everyday body armor will stop everyday handgun rounds, and that's what made this shooter so hard to kill, and which made the Buffalo shooter difficult to kill too. State Senator Roland Gutierrez told CNN Tuesday evening, following the briefing from Texas Rangers, that the shooter bought at least 2 rifles shortly after assault rifles after his 18th birthday. I believe there is some discussion about he had a long rifle as well as a pistol during the shooting. He had no problem accessing those weapons. Texas Governor Abbott said during a press conference that it's believed that the shooter abandoned his vehicle and entered the school with a weapon. He added the suspect also allegedly shot his grandmother before going to Robb Elementary. Shades of Sandy Hook. That's what this is. Shades of Sandy Hook, the shooting in Connecticut years ago. It's... I don't know. It just, I spent the day so far watching MSNBC, Morning Joe, going through the discussion on the topic, and it's difficult. It's difficult. I think Steve Kerr said a lot of great things, and to tell you the truth, I don't know when it's going to end. Okay. I think I'm going to go to good news right now. That's what I think I'm going to do. Biden has a new executive order on policing 2 years after George Floyd was killed. He has a new executive order. It doesn't do everything because there are 50 senators, maybe 51 if you include Joe Manchin. They just refuse to do anything about policing. The measure is a response to public outcry in recent years over certain police tactics. It forbids federal agents from using chokeholds and neck restraints unless deadly force is authorized. This, after a neck hold was used by a New York police officer, was blamed for the death of Eric Gardner in 2014. This is important too. The order also limits federal officers' use of no-knock warrants and requires federal law enforcement agencies to document publicly when and why they use no-knock warrants and injuries, with any injuries that result. Of course, because this is the United States of America, and we have this crazy federal system that local governments control or dictate what police enforcement policies they use. So in other words, if you're in one town in the same state, they may use chokeholds, while the next town over, they don't use chokeholds. The executive order instructs federal law enforcement agencies such as the FBI and Customs and Border Protection to revise their use of force policies. The new policy is that you can only use force when there's no reasonably effective, safe, and feasible alternative appears to exist. Oh, my fictitious God, I cannot believe that it's taken this long for people to realize that maybe you shouldn't use force unless you exhaust other options. Maybe you shouldn't be using force if you're a police officer unless there's no other option. The executive order will also create a new database of officers. I'm just going to jump down to this third paragraph. Reformers say a database could prevent officers who are fired for misconduct in one jurisdiction from finding new police jobs elsewhere. At least one study was found that such wandering officers are often more likely to use excessive force. A privately run database already exists containing the names of 40,000 officers who've lost certification for misconduct. In the absence of federal mandate, only about 1/3 of police departments ever check it when hiring new officers. There were a couple of primaries last night too, and once again, I didn't feel it right to just have the entire show just horrible news there, because legitimately there are some glimmers of hope. 2 of Trump's candidates in the state of Georgia lost, and I cannot believe this. But Mike Pence might have saved the Republic for a second time. The first time is when he, of course, decided to legitimize the election on January 6th. And in the governor's race, the Republican primaries race in Republican was seen as a Trump versus Pence competition. And Pence's candidate won and Trump's candidate lost. Kemp won the primary in Georgia, and Kemp isn't a great guy. He is a gun nut, but he is a gun nut who believes in counting votes, everyone. And Trump's candidate, Perdue, who lost, does not believe in counting votes. So job well done, Mike Pence. And another bit of good news is that Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger beats Trump-backed primary challenge. AP says, once again, he was the firewall in Georgia. He was the one who said, we are going to count the votes. They will be a legitimate counting. And he was the one who stood up to Donald J. Trump, everyone. So he won. So that's 2 bits of good news. Perhaps, maybe the United States of America can pull itself out of this dumpster fire. I don't know, to tell you the truth. They can go either way. Hope to see you at 8:15 for the after party, after show. That's on the Naked Diner podcast channel. That's in the description below if you want to come and watch. And I want to leave you not with a cat video, but with this video from this high school senior, Xander Morris. He was told he's gay, and he was told by his school that if he used the word gay, his mic would be shut off. So he changed the word gay to curly hair. And once again, I hope to see him, if not tomorrow, then in a couple of minutes. Period.
This characteristic has probably become the first thing you think of when you think of me as a human being. As you know, I have curly hair. I used to hate my curls. I spent mornings and nights embarrassed at them, trying desperately to straighten this part of who I am. But the daily damage of trying to fix myself became too much to endure. So, while having curly hair in Florida is difficult, due to the humidity, I decided to be proud of who I was and started coming to school as my authentic self. Here, it was Miss Ballard who answered my questions because I didn't have other curly-haired people to talk to. It was Mr. Pauling who read essays about curls costing me an opportunity that I really wanted. It was my friends that told me that curls look good on me, and that I should stop hiding them. It was a messy and twisted growth process, but eventually I did. It's because of the love I've drawn from this community that I came out to my family. Now I'm happy. Now I'm happy. And that is what is at stake. There are going to be so many kids with curly hair who need a community like Pineview, and they will not have one. Instead, they'll try to fix themselves so that they can exist in Florida's humid climate. I've been preparing for this speech since I was elected my freshman year. Do you think that I wanted it to be about this? It needs to be about this for the thousands of curly-haired kids who are going to be forced to speak like this for their entire lives as students.